Mike, thank you so much for coming on the AIM podcast.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate you having me. Excited to have you in store, man. Excited to tell you a little bit about the store, about myself, and also learn a little bit more about you.
Let's go, man. This is a special episode, man. Just the fact that we're sitting here in your current store, bro. Like,
yeah,
this is unreal. I've never done anything like this, man. So I just want to thank you for letting us come in here. And you look around and you see, you know, a lot of really dope shoes, but it's so much deeper than shoes. I know we'll talk about it, but it's a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifices that you've made to be in this position.
No, for sure, man. 100%. You're 100% right.
Yeah, man. And like many people know, if people really know me, like, I think right now where I'm at in my career, you could say, is I do a lot of stuff with fitness. I do a lot of stuff with speaking, motivation, but my roots are basketball. Like that was my life up until I graduated college. And a big part of that and me getting into business was shoes. And so even us, you know, I've known you for, I don't know when we met. It's been a minute.
Okay, yeah. Like, I've met so many people in Raleigh, and I know so many people through basketball and sneakers. It's rare for me to say, hey, I met this guy on this day. But I feel like I've known you longer than I have, however long it's been.
I mean, to be honest, it had to have been probably middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school or very early high school. So that's saying a lot. But
that's awesome, man.
Man, I'm excited to dive in. I think there's a lot of a similarity in our stories and our love for hoops and our love for shoes and helping people. But I want to, before we talk about this store and what you've built, I want to learn more about you and your personal story. Yeah. And, you know, you're from here growing up. Like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your upbringing and how that kind of got you going and started that momentum.
Yeah. So I'm from Raleigh. Raleigh, North Carolina, born and raised. Outside of attending ECU, I've lived in Raleigh my entire life. Love the community here, always been a part of it. You talked about hoops a lot. Hoops were a big part of my upbringing, just like you. I feel like growing up in this area, something you're so exposed to that I couldn't help but like fall in love with it. Sports always a big part of growing up. I had two great parents. My parents provided everything I ever needed. They invested in my education. They taught me how to do things the right way, and they're really the reason I was able to do all this and be successful in adulthood. So shout out to them first and foremost for just teaching me everything I needed to know. But outside of that, man, sports were a big part of my life. I grew up loving basketball. I've been a Duke fan my entire life.
Let's go.
But as the store has grown, I've gotten to sell shoes to Carolina State, any other college basketball or pro basketball players you can think of. So I more so support everybody now and try to support anybody who supports our store. You know what I mean? Yeah,
bro. That's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful spot to be. If you love basketball, man, Raleigh, like, dude, I tell people all the time, and people have, and we can have the Hoop State, you know, we can, obviously, I know we're aligned on the argument, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's a lot of great spots around the country for basketball. Sure. But, man, Raleigh, dude, in the middle of, NC State, Carolina, and Duke, like, that's a beautiful spot to be.
Yeah, I always tell people, like, the one time I knew hoops was huge growing up here is when I was in middle school. I went to go see Leesville play Broughton at it was at Reynolds Coliseum, and they sold out Reynolds Coliseum, like a 6,000-seat stadium. And at Leesville, you had Shawan Robinson and Anthony Richardson. Broughton, you had Shavlik Randolph. So when I went to that high school game, and it was like that college atmosphere, sold out line at the door, I was like, you know, this is the area for hoops, for sure.
100%. And you're talking about high school, like, not to mention, Duke, Carolina State.
Yeah,
like, that's
and this is while I was in middle school. So not only am I watching all these awesome guys my age when I grew to that age, but you know, growing up, I'm watching the PJ Tuckers, and I went to Millbrook, so like the Cameron Stanleys, Melvin Tabbs, all types of great players come out of Raleigh. Yeah. Just to watch those guys in high school is really cool and inspiring.
And then you, of course, got the John Wall era, which is, that's on a whole nother level.
A whole nother level, man. I went to one of the games in Ravenscroft, the Word of God Ravenscroft games, and same thing with that, the sold-out atmosphere, standing room only, camera crews in there. It's different, man. And I know there's a lot of great areas, Indiana, California, a lot of good hoop areas, but I don't think the culture is like it is here, man. I feel like that's the one thing that kind of sets it apart.
I agree. I agree totally, man. And what was it for you, though, that got you into the game of basketball? Because you talk about basketball being like a big part of your childhood. I think it's interesting how people have different like relationships with what brought them into the game. Like, what was that for you like?
So for me, it was really like a family thing. Duke basketball was like a really big part of my family. My great uncle, his name is Eddie Cameron. He was a basketball coach, football coach, and athletic director at Duke. And this was all like 1930s to 1950s. But he was like, I think he's still one of the longest tenured workers at Duke. So
Wow.
that was like, he kind of planted the seed of making my family a Duke family. And it just became a generational thing, honestly. I wish I'd gone to Duke. A lot of my cousins, a lot of my family members did. I didn't end up putting in that much work in high school, but that's really where it started. My love for Duke basketball, and then it just grew from there, man. Outside of being a fan of Duke, I just really became a fan of the game, a fan of like great players, great competitors, and man, I still to this day live, sleep, eat, breathe basketball.
Yeah, man, I love that. I didn't have a family member that went to Duke, but my story with Duke was that 2010 team. You know, I was kind of in those young pivotal years, and I just remember seeing Shire, Nolan Smith, Kyle Singler was probably the player that I looked up to the most because I probably played the most like him, as like a tougher guard that just played hard. It wasn't necessarily the best or most athletic, but
he was a warrior, man.
He was a warrior.
He was a warrior. And that team, I love that team. They don't have that like superstar player. It was one of the more, it's like a great example of a Duke team that didn't come in with a lot of hype, but they had a lot of senior leadership and they played together. They were battle tested. They went through the ups and downs together. And then to see all those guys win their senior year, and not only that, but to elevate their games at the end of their senior year to win, that was sick. That's one of my favorite teams ever, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. And it's so cool to see just the evolution of Duke and to see where Shire was as a national champion player now as a coach and what he's doing with the program is crazy.
It's wild. I was in the same class, high school class as them, so I remember he was this huge hotshot recruit coming out of Chicago. I think he set their all-time scoring record in Chicago for public schools. So the fact that he is the head coach of Duke now is pretty wild.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild,
100%.
But it's cool to see guys climb that ladder quickly.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, man. I'm super happy for him and the program. Obviously, Coach, there will never be another Coach K.
No
one can ever be Coach K. But I think Shire's the right guy, and it's been cool just to see the success he's having.
For sure. It's a tough job. You know, nobody envies replacing the Hall of Famer, but he seems to be built for it. I think Duke's going to give him the investment that he needs to. I don't think they're looking at it as a long-term plan, probably. So I think that's probably best.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I want to talk to you about your love for sneakers, because like we're in your story, and obviously, you know, there's a lot of parallels between sneakers and connections too, I guess, to the game of basketball and the shoe culture.
For sure.
What was that like with you? Like, when did you kind of get involved or get interested in sneakers, and what was that kind of initial trigger for that?
That's a great question, man. It was 100% behind basketball. I would say the age would be probably in like that 10 to 13 age.
Wow.
Is when I really started more so focusing on what players were wearing. I remember seeing Lou Olding wearing a pair of French Blue 12s. First time I've ever seen a Duke player wear Jordans. And that was like the moment where I started kind of paying attention to Jordans and who was wearing what. And then when I started watching more NBA, I started noticing some of like the Quentin Richardsons, Darius Miles, Mike Bibby, people that were wearing shoes that I knew you couldn't get at the store, you know. I started learning more about PEs, just started exploring more different models with different brands, Grant Hill with the Fila's, got really into Kyrie's when his line came out, being that he was from Duke. So really just from a young age, noticing what guys were wearing and noticing them using it as a form of expression, really. And I think you see that today, you know, more than ever. Sneakers are really being used to kind of express yourself and outwardly express what you like through your footwear, which is pretty cool.
That's super dope. So at this time in your life, though, you're observing all these players, the shoes they're wearing, the way they're expressing themselves, and you're starting to buy shoes, but you're not selling them yet. Like, this is the age where you're just starting to get familiar with like the shoe game, the shoe culture.
Exactly. So, like when I explain to younger kids about owning sneakers and having sneakers growing up, it was a lot different. Reselling, it might have been a thing on eBay, but it wasn't like a thing. You didn't really buy a shoe. You bought a shoe and you wore it and you gave it to your cousin when it was, you know, when you couldn't wear it again.
Right.
The resale market, or like considering the resale value of a shoe, was not a thing. So my parents weren't like super into the idea of having a ton of shoes. I would get nice shoes, but typically I would have to pick and choose, and my nice shoes would always be basketball shoes. I would say, give me whatever to go to school and give me something nice to play basketball in. And it's not like today where you kept them in the box and you keep them fresh and you clean them. Like the day I got them, I was going outside and playing basketball. So it's just a completely different dynamic now with trading and people valuing their sneakers at certain amounts.
Yeah.
It's just changed a lot.
That's wild, man. That's so interesting. Yeah, I had a similar experience, but I remember the first time I think I experienced, like, I wanted a pair of Jordans. Like, I really didn't have a ton of money. I couldn't really afford like a brand new pair.
Right. My parents weren't going for that either.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
And I got a pair from a buddy who was selling them. They were used, and I was like, man, okay, I can get him money for this used pair, and they still look pretty solid. Like, he took good care of them, so I was like, that's cool. But then someone else wanted them from me, and I was like, what do you want for them? And they were giving me a price more than I paid for them. So that's when the light bulb turned on for me of like, yo, I can kind of hustle this a little bit and make a profit margin. And then once I did that I did it again and did it again. And I started doing like bulk, and then one thing led to another. But that was like my entry point into like business, entrepreneurship, hustling, flipping, selling. Like that was how I kind of got into it, almost like accidentally, just by wanting a pair of shoes. And then
I would say same thing. Like, this whole story, you could say, is accidental. This is not something that I didn't sit down and say, hey, I want to open a sneaker store. It's just like you said, one thing led to another. I got into restoring shoes. So started buying stuff cheap, restoring it, doing a lot of research on YouTube and stuff. Met a guy named Derek from Raleigh Restorations, started doing some work for him and kind of like doing contract work and learning, almost apprenticeship under him. And that is the first time I ever even thought about selling shoes, is when I realized I could buy stuff cheaper, refurbish it, and resell it. So I started selling a lot online. And then one thing led to another. I finally kind of blew up online one year, and I got my tax bill later. And I was like, all this money I'm spending in taxes, I could have just rented a store and at least tried to open a business with it. So
wow. So you were buying, and you were doing this all through like eBay or like different.
Yeah. So this is a throwback, but there was a site called Kixify back then.
I remember Kixify.
Yeah, not a lot of people remember it, but it's like an early goat, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah, I did really well on Kixify one year, and I knew nothing about taxes or anything like that. And I thought I killed it. I made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got my tax bill, and I was like, ooh, that's not what I was anticipating. So that kind of motivated me to try to grow a real business out of it and kind of enjoy some of the perks of ownership.
So you were doing it more legit. When I started, bro, I think I sold a few pair on eBay, but I was doing everything in person. It was all cash. It was I was just moving
I will say previous to that, I probably started the online thing like 2010, 2011 maybe. And prior to that, from like 2007 to 2011, the big thing to do was to Facebook groups. You get on the Facebook groups and meet up people in public. So yeah, I used to drive. To this day, people will come into the store and be like, I don't know if you remember this, but I was a little kid and you pulled up and bought my shoes from me somewhere in Raleigh.
No way.
There's like...
That's amazing.
Yeah, you know, that's really gratifying when you see somebody that did business with you before you even had the thought to like own a store or anything. That's pretty cool. I don't know how these people remember me, but... Dude,
that's cool. So cool, man. That is so cool just to see where it started, and obviously we'll keep working through the story. So you start getting going. You're starting to now understand the value of selling them. You're cleaning them up. You're refurbishing them, and you're using online methods. You're going to Facebook Marketplace, whatever, to get the shoes.
Yep, doing sneaker cons, all that, man.
What was that next step though to like take this to the next level? Like where was that moment for you in your mind and your business? Like, was it what you intended? Like, how did that kind of play out?
It was kind of a leap of faith, man. Honestly, I had met my business partner, Eddie. He was really instrumental in kicking all this off. We met through just friendship, through shoes. I think I repaired a couple of his shoes, restored some. We had bought, sold, traded together, started hanging out. Really cool guy, like-minded. And then we both, saw this void in Raleigh. We saw this huge culture for sneakers and basketball and music, and this area with millions of people that had no sneaker store. It was just kind of crazy. And at the time, Round 2 was really thriving in Richmond, Virginia, and we were going up there, every couple months just to check it out, buy something, sell something. Love their concept, love the energy of their store, and both of us were just like, man, something like this would take off in Raleigh, without a doubt. And it was just an idea at that time. We didn't have a lot of capital. We didn't have any investors. We probably started with 50 to 60 pairs of shoes in our store, but we got wind there were a couple people trying to open stores, and we wanted to be the first. So we kind of just took that leap of faith. We literally decided, hey, let's try to make a store out of this. And I think we found on Craigslist the cheapest building we could possibly get. It's right down the road, actually. It was a methadone clinic, and it was like an office style, and we completely renovated it. We knocked down all the walls to make it an open floor plan and kind of transform it into a retail store.
Wow.
And I think to this day, that was probably the hardest thing we did, is upfitting that store. A lot of like blood, sweat, and tears into that process.
I love these stories, man. We're super grateful and fortunate to have on some incredible founders, entrepreneurs on the show that, have different businesses in different industries. But, just to hear your story is so powerful. Talk about the humble beginnings, because I know even before the episode, you were just chatting about like the grind that you had to go through, even just to make it make sense. Because I want people to hear, like, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up one day. Most people, and be in a shoe store like this with the walls filled, Supreme stuff everywhere. Like, this doesn't happen overnight. So talk about that kind of humble beginning grind mindset that you had to have to even get it off the ground.
Yeah, for sure. It was a process, man. And I'll say one thing that I tell anybody that's wants to open a business is, if you're doing it for immediate gratification, it's not going to work, or it's not going to sustain if you want a long-term business. But the first 2 to 3 years were a real struggle. We really, with our budget, us being a buy-sell trade, we have to allocate a good amount of money for buying, just to have money for product when people come in, to keep product flowing and to keep our shelves fresh. You know what I mean? So essentially, we didn't get paid for the first, Eddie and I, we worked full-time for 2 to 2.5 years without taking any paychecks. Maybe pay an emergency bill here or there, but outside of that, like no salary, no hourly, clocking in from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day and not really getting paid. So he and I made a lot of sacrifices. He was in college at the time too, so he was juggling that too.
Dang.
But we both worked a couple odd jobs. Actually, I worked at Foot Locker for the first year and a half the store was open, and eventually they caught wind of that and told me I couldn't work there anymore. So I was working that day on my day off. We were closed one day a week. I'd work a double at Foot Locker, and then outside of that, drive Uber. I drove a party bus on the weekends at night. Wow. I had a bunch of little odd jobs to kind of pay the bills. Thankfully, at that time, I was renting an apartment for $500. You can't do that anymore. So my costs were low. I kind of had to really adjust my cost of living and kind of go to the bare bones and save money and pour everything into the store. But it was definitely worth it. And I was at an age where I didn't need a whole lot, man. As long as I had a place to lay my head and, comfortable pair of shoes to wear to work, I was good to go.
Yeah, you eat water for breakfast. So.
Yeah, I was definitely eating a lot more water back then. That's for sure.
Oh man.
No, we had
that's a powerful. Bro.
I got to shout out there was a $1 taco truck.
Oh no, dude.
Bro, I ate there probably every day for like 6 months.
Man,
we were eating that $4 taco lunch consistently, and that helped us sustain and save a ton of money. So literally, like, sacrifices I can't really imagine making at this juncture in my life, but at that time,
you had to do what you had to do.
I would encourage anyone, while you're in your 20s, if you can, save as much money as you can, live as modestly as you can, and try to stack and grind if you can.
That whole idea of just like making sacrifices and investing in a dream or a vision. Yeah. That's not going to give you that immediate gratification. It's not going to give you that glitz and glamour overnight. No. But it's that, like, you're living proof. And I'm so grateful that you're doing the show. Like, it's so beautiful to see what you had to go through, and you open up and talk about it vulnerably, but now we get to see the fruit of that investment, the fruit of that sacrifice. And I know you're not done. Like, you guys are continuing to scale. You're going to continue to grow. And I'm sure we'll talk about at the end, maybe your vision for where this all is going. But like, it's just cool to, like, you have credibility to stand on that statement and tell us and, like, hopefully provide that value to our audience because you've lived it and seen the fruit from it.
Yeah. I think immediate gratification is like a big thing now. Everybody wants, with social media, we all see what everybody has. We all see, and a lot of it is manufactured. There's a lot of non-truths on social media. A lot of kids get caught up in what people have and what they post and how far along you should be at a certain age, and that's just not a healthy mindset, especially if you want to run a business. You have to run your race, worry about yourself, and do things right, not worry about other people as much.
So good, man. I want to talk to you about like, okay, so you're making the sacrifice, you're getting things going, you're working for a couple of years, just grinding it out, like dogging it out, and you're building this business. What are some lessons that you learned from an entrepreneurial standpoint, like a business perspective, that you think will be valuable to share in those first few years of like growing the business, maybe customer relationships, any way you want to take it, but what are some lessons you learned?
I think making a good first impression is key, and providing a good value. That's something I've always like prided myself on in the store, is providing good value. And I feel like a lot of sneaker stores are out to charge you as much as they possibly can to make the highest margins they possibly can. Whereas in my opinion, sometimes it's better to grow a clientele, give people good deals, make them return customers. And that's what's really sustained our business and served us over the years. It's, you know, we have a ton of new customers, but I've seen some of the same people walking in and out of those doors for 6 years now. Yeah. And those are the people that I'm, you know, eternally thankful for. Those are the people that really keep our business going.
Dude, that's so good. And I'll be honest, and I'm not even trying to plug you, like, I'll be honest, it's like super organic, but like even our relationship, like we built a great relationship. I still come back. Like I bought a pair of shoes from you a couple weeks ago. Yeah. And you've always taken care of me, bro. And it's so much bigger than business. Obviously, I know as a fellow entrepreneur, like, you got to make money. Sure. You got to do things that make sense from the business perspective, but you're so good at building relationships. Yeah. And I think that's something that we could even talk about, is like, there's a reason that guys from Duke, from Carolina, from NC State come. Of course, you have heat in the store. Yeah. But the way you treat them, the way you take care of them, I think is something that's, you know, to be talked about and said, because a lot of people, I think, get so fixated on money, business, revenue, but there's so much more that comes with the relational side to building something that's long-term and sustaining. Absolutely, man. And relationships aren't always about making money. You know, sometimes they're about partnerships that are going to enhance both parties. You know what I mean? But with selling sneakers, man, it's not really an organic thing. It's not something we have a copyright on. I didn't make the first sneaker store, so we're all out here kind of selling the same product. What's going to distinguish ourselves from another is, you know, the culture, is how much we really love what we actually do. And then the relationships, how you treat people, how people value you, and how you value other people's times. So good, bro. I love that. I want to know some like cool stories you've had over the years, because obviously you've been able to encounter some really dope people that have come in and out of the store. I'm sure you probably have some crazy stories, but what are there some like key pivotal moments for you that were just like, man, this is dope. Like I get to do this and this is a blessing. Yeah. Obviously the athletes coming through, it's helped us twofold. Obviously it's cool getting to meet all these guys, you know. If 10, 12-year-old me knew that like the whole Duke basketball team was coming in shopping in my sneaker store, you'd be freaking out. Yeah. But it lends us credibility, you know, it helps our exposure. So that's a big one. Remind me of the original question. Just like maybe a cool story or something you had where someone came in and you're like, yo, this is crazy that someone's coming in the store. Yeah, so like some of the first Duke guys that came in, still friends with these guys today, Jordan Goldwire, Alex O'Connell, they just really embraced us. They loved the store. Like they wanted to work. They couldn't work at the time. That was before NIL. They couldn't make money, but they were like, yo, if we could work here, we would. Dang. And that was just really cool. They ended up snagging me a jersey from Zion. They did some really cool stuff for me. But that was kind of the beginning, man. That was the beginning, and that was just humbling to have the Duke guys travel all the way from Durham. We were in a little old, you know, smaller shop over there. So for them to get wind of us and travel to come shop with us, I felt like we had kind of made it at that point. Yeah, no, that's super cool. I remember those guys specifically. Those guys were big sneakerheads. I remember that. Yeah, they were. They are to this day, man. I hope both of y'all are doing well if you see this. Yeah, 100%, man. That's dope. What for you personally, like outside of business, like what is your go-to hoop shoe? Like what is your, actually, let me ask you this. Your go-to hoop shoe, but then your go-to just like fire shoe to walk around in, like your rock shoe. Okay, go-to hoop shoe, probably gonna be a Kyrie 6. It's kind of random, off the wall. It's not like the most hype colorways or really a model that a lot of people love. I've never had any type of foot problems, blisters, anything playing. The whole Kyrie line, really, I can play in any of them. That's basically primarily what I hoop in. Go-to walking shoe, I've been wearing a lot of New Balances, man. I'm getting to that age where what I wear really affects like my feet, and like just with hooping a lot, I like to wear comfortable stuff now to where I'm not putting any wear and tear on my feet when I'm not playing. I feel that. Have you ever worn Hoka's?
No, I haven't, but I need to get a pair, man. I need a running shoe, so
Or when you and I train for that 100-miler you're gonna do?
no, I'm good on that. Maybe another half marathon.
I feel you, bro. No, that's fire. You're wearing Kobe's right now. That's what I thought that's like the classic, you know,
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
mean,
hoopers love Kobe's.
Yeah, if you're talking like what's my favorite shoe in terms of like collecting and owning, I'll probably go Kobe's, man.
Totally.
I think Kobe, when it came out, I worked at Foot Locker when like some of the cooler models were coming out, and Kobe was a revolutionary shoe if you think about it, because when it came out, nothing looked like a Kobe. It was the only shoe that was low top, that was light, that was more so looked like a running or a soccer shoe.
100%.
Go back to Foot Locker today, 2024, every shoe looks like a Kobe now. In fact, there was some players coming in from Duke saying they were looking for high top sneakers because they get every sneaker under the sun, but you know, every Nike shoe now is a low top. It all resembles a Kobe in a way.
Yeah.
So he really revolutionized basketball shoes. If you think about what we were wearing before him, it was the LeBrons, the Hyper Dunks, really high top, really bulky. And a lot of people, you know, didn't embrace that shoe when it came out, but 10 years later now you can see it in every model of hoop shoe.
100%. And the Kobe 6 is the one with the snakeskin? Mm-hmm. That's the one that, when that came out, man, I've never seen a shoe like that with that design, like the pattern. I was like, dude, this is crazy.
I mean, to this day, it's the most worn shoe in the NBA. So
really,
it's pretty crazy, you know?
Yeah, I can relate though. I personally, when I hooped, like even at Western, like I never wore low tops.
Right.
I would either wear high tops or mids. I started to get to where I was like wearing a lot of Dame 4s.
Yeah,
and
it's a great shoe too.
Yeah, we were Adidas, so that's what I rocked. But I loved it. I had a bunch of different colorways. One of my homies, Pierce, who probably actually has been through here a minute.
Yeah.
But he got me a custom pair with like a Bible verse on the back. It had a Western colorway, purple gold. It was so fire.
That's awesome, man. I saw you went back there recently and talked to the team. That's cool that you could do that.
It's so dope, man. And it's cool that, you know, you talk about the passion you have for what you're doing with the shoes and how you're making an impact. Like speaking has become something that I've been really passionate about recently. Mm-hmm. And like you, it's going to be something I'm going to have to build and work into. It's not going to be like on big stages overnight, but it's like, how can I use what I feel like God's given me, my blessing to go bless others with, even if it's in smaller settings. But
dude, it's only a matter of time, man. What you're doing at your age is, you know, it's the tip of the iceberg for you. You know?
I appreciate that, man. But it's been cool to get around some basketball people through doing what I love, which is right now it's just been speaking and encouraging people. And it's like, you know, I had the opportunity, I was grateful to speak at Western Carolina to the men's team. I'm going to Ravenscroft on Monday to speak to them. And
that's awesome.
You know, it's just to give back to the people that poured so much into me, man.
Yep.
And I'm sure you can probably even relate to that with your customers or just like different people you've had work for you. Like just, it's that gratitude of like helping acknowledge the people that put you in the position that you are in now.
Yeah.
Like no one gets here by themselves.
No. Like going back to talking on my parents, like
I love that.
They, you know, they haven't been here for a while, but you know, they instilled in me everything I needed from a young age to become a businessman. Without what they taught me, there's no chance. There's literally no chance I could have done this.
Dude, that's so cool that you bring them up again. And you know, I was super fortunate to get to work Duke basketball camp, and I remember the best part of camp was me just getting to listen to Coach K, because every time that dude opens his mouth, it's just wisdom.
Yeah.
And I remember one night he addressed the whole camp, it's like 700 kids, and he talked about the message was, you're never gonna get here alone. You're never gonna get here by yourself. He actually gave a lot of credit to his mother and his father, but really his mom and the sacrifices that she made for him. And just to see someone who's had that much success and be at that point in his life, still give that gratitude and credit to someone else.
Yeah.
To put him in that position, I just thought that was beautiful. And it's cool to see you do the same thing. And I'm trying my best to honor the people that have gone before me and put me in this position as well.
That is cool. I also get to kind of enjoy basketball as a secondary part of my job too. I'm like you know, like you asked me what I want to be growing up. I want to go to Duke and I want to play in the NBA. Granted, that's not, you know, always an attainable goal, but I always saw myself working in the game in some capacity. And I guess I'm not directly doing that, but it kind of fills my need of having that conversation every day, seeing those people and being close to the game.
Yeah, for sure. Dope. No, that's super dope. I want to talk about this store in particular because, like, obviously it's cool to talk about your story coming up and everything, but like, let's talk about the present moment right now. Yeah. You guys are in this amazing store. How long have you guys been in this one right here?
2 years and some change, going on, like 2.5 years right now.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And what kind of went into this decision to kind of expand? Because this is the largest store you guys have had to date, right?
This is the fourth. So in 7 years, we basically, our first 6 years went through a new location every 2 years. So we would upgrade.
Just keep growing.
Yeah, thankfully our landlord owns this entire block, so she was able to kind of seamlessly move our lease from here to here, and just we pay the difference. So coming here was a really big step. It's a step we knew we needed to make, though. Truthfully, we had really good success at our old store. I don't know if you remember, but around the time of The Last Dance coming out,
Oh, man.
sneakers were like at an all-time high.
Jordan specifically?
Yeah, like it got to the point where we didn't have a single pair of Jordans in our store.
That's
I'm
crazy.
not kidding. I'll always tell that story. But yeah, at one point during The Last Dance, we were sold out of Jordans.
Wow.
During that whole 2-3 month period, our store was at capacity the whole time. We had lines waiting out the door, and it was just like not a comfortable setup for our customers anymore. We had packed too much inventory in too small of a space. And we had, I think, 8 or 9 foot ceilings, so it kind of just felt really cramped. Moving here was something that kind of really helped us expand. Obviously, a beautiful facility, biggest sneaker wall that I know of on the East Coast.
Yeah.
That's something.
This is beautiful, bro.
That's something for the wow factor. We really wanted to do something bigger and better than anyone had ever done. And it just gave us a little bit more room to be more creative with how we lay stuff out. It allowed us to display a lot of stuff that we currently didn't have room to display at the old place. And kind of just, set the stage for what we wanted our store to look like, and the culture we wanted it to represent, and not just be like a bland sneaker store with a gray wall with a bunch of shoe shelves on it.
I love that. You mentioned something I think would be super interesting to talk about. You talk about The Last Dance and the impact it had on the store. I want to talk to, even from a business perspective, because obviously we have other founders, entrepreneurs listening to this, aspiring entrepreneurs. I want you to talk about timing of things and how that's impacted your store. I want you to talk about trends that you've seen go in and out of style. I want you to talk about stuff like The Last Dance, but you obviously have this business model in place, but there are external factors that you can't control at all. You can't control trends. You can't control documentaries on the greatest player of all time coming out, but those things impact your business. How, as a business owner, do you either prepare for them or, even better yet, maximize that opportunity?
That's a great question. That's a really, really good question. And the timing is something you touched on is really important. And there's certainly some luck involved. I'm not going to lie.
For sure.
But timing, the best way I can explain it and how it helped us is that one of the reasons we were successful is that we were trying to do this during a time that nobody else really was trying to do it or thought it would be successful.
Right.
If you wait to see a successful business and try to jump on that wave at that time, it might be too late. Because
True.
And not saying we're the first sneaker store ever. Obviously, we took things from other stores that we saw. Round 2 was a huge influence on us. Loved their vibe and what they did. But at the time, 2016, when we opened, the majority of the people that we were asking about opening a store, they were like, you shouldn't do it. Everything's online now. Nobody really goes in-person retail stores. So it was kind of against the grain of what everybody else was doing. And then I say 2018, 2019, around that Last Dance period, a lot of people found that there was easy money in sneakers. At that time, you could go to a Foot Locker, buy any pair of Jordans and post them online and make $60 to $100, if not more. So business was really easy at that time. A lot of people entered the business place at that time, and sneakers became really saturated. There became a lot of sneaker stores. And that's when it gets hard, and that's what's going to kind of differentiate a business that can succeed long-term from one that can't, is can you make it through that hard time? Dang. When times are tough, can you still make your money, pay your employees, be profitable? Because sneakers, man, when the economy's booming, or when people had stimulus money, or when The Last Dance was out, there's been times where it's been really easy. I'm going to be honest, really easy. But times like right now, they're hard, People, given the economy, interest rates, I can say I have a lot less spending money than I had 2 to 3 years ago.
Wow.
I was fortunate to buy a house this year, but, I had to do so at a great cost, and I had to pay a lot to get it. So my personal budget for luxury items, sneakers, things I don't necessarily need, has shrunk, and I think that is definitely the case across the country. So retail's tough right now. A lot of retailers are are scrambling to survive, and we're blessed to sustain through these times.
Yeah, wow, that's good perspective. That's really good perspective. I want to talk to you about, as an entrepreneur, just, I think really good founders, really good leaders, really good people that are in positions of having to make big, tough decisions have to understand how you have to adapt and change with times and not just stay stuck in your ways.
Absolutely.
When I was getting into the sneaker game, all I cared about was Jordans.
Yeah.
Like, I maybe sold a few pair of LeBrons, a few pair of Kobe's, and those were cool, but like Jordans was everything.
Yeah.
I never got into Yeezys. I never got into Dunks. I never got into, dude, I couldn't even, like, I'm so far removed, bro. I couldn't tell you half the shoes that are on the wall.
I respect it, man.
But like, talk about how you guys, is that like just through market research? Like, how have you kind of continued to evolve with the trends and like what's popular now? Obviously Jordans will always be popular,
Sure.
but now there are new things that you have to consider as a shoe guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the market is completely different from when we started. I was telling you earlier, I think when we started in 2016, Adidas dominated our wall. We had tons of Ultra Boost, NMDs. This was really, Yeezys were like impossible to get at that time. So we had the Yeezys, but they were $500-$600. But the number one shoe we were selling was Ultra Boost and NMDs. And, that's flip-flopped a lot. So with sneakers especially, you have to stay current. You have to notice trends. One reason we wanted to do a buy-sell trade is that we're not at the mercy of whatever a company sends us to sell. We're going out and handpicking what we want to sell. So tough. I'm able to kind of notice those trends and focus my buying towards those, and not necessarily get sent a ton of inventory that I'm going to be sitting on that's going to kind of go out of style. But staying on top of that is challenging. Obviously, the younger people kind of dictate the trends, and as we get older, we got to kind of have employees that can, keep us more filled in on that stuff, because it's a lot. When you do something for a living, you don't do it on the hobby side as much. So as crazy as it sounds, I'm probably less educated on what's coming out right now than I was like before I had a store. But yeah, that's a big thing. Changing with the times, changing with the trends, and adapting your business to, whatever's selling at that time. Like I was telling you during the stimulus, when money was flying, we were selling tons of high-end shoes. Recently, when the economy's been a little bit lower, we're selling a lot of more affordable shoes. So we can kind of tailor our sales to whatever people are needing at that time. But being adaptable in business is super important. There are very few businesses that do things the same way over and over and get great results. So
yeah, that's super interesting. I gotta ask you, because like, dude, you sold probably more shoes, bought and sold more shoes than anyone I know. What have you learned about negotiation? What, like, do you have any game for like good negotiation? Obviously, I know
number one rule I would say for negotiators: if you want to negotiate, bring cash. Bring cash. Have your money ready. Your negotiation will go a lot farther, and you'll get a lot more positive attention towards it, because
you can do the deal on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I've had nothing is more annoying than somebody haggling you down for a shoe or whatever. It may be a car, a shoe, a house, whatever you're trying to sell them, and then they don't have the money, Yeah. I'm willing to work with people on certain things. But also, like, I want to be known as a store that the prices are already good.
Yeah.
I don't want to be overcharging something $50 and having to haggle it down. So we do our best to get things at a good price, and if we get it at a good price, give it to our customer at a good price.
I love that.
So my goal is to not have a lot of negotiation and to have a price point where my customer understands, all right, I'm already getting it at a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
But regardless, we always try to look out for the customer,
Yeah, of course. What is the moment maybe you've been the most proud of what you've been able to accomplish in terms of building this store, the impact you've had? Like, has there been a moment where you just sat there and were like, man, I'm really proud to be here, or proud of this moment?
Dude, every day, to be honest, one of them. But I would say it's not like one particular time, but just hearing younger people say, thanks for inspiring me or pushing me to go try something that I wouldn't have tried otherwise, whether, and some of them are my competitors that open sneaker stores, but it's still cool to hear just that someone I don't even know has observed me from afar, and whatever they've observed inspired them to go harder in their life or chase their dream or open their store or whatever the case may be. That's like the most gratifying thing to me, I would say.
Yeah, dude, I love that. It becomes bigger than yourself. It's like when your actions, your sacrifices, your grind
Yeah.
can inspire someone else to take action and ownership of their life and go do something that they've always wanted to, but maybe they were scared to.
Yeah.
Like that is powerful, bro.
No, it is. And like, I think myself and Eddie, neither of us really got into this for money. It was really for fulfillment and just to do something we love for a living and do something we're passionate about. And when people see that passion and are inspired by that, that's really cool, man. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
I love that, man. This has been a fire episode. I want to talk about though, before we wrap this up, where is this going? Like, what is your vision for this concept, for the store, for the impact you're going to be able to have on this community? Like, where are you headed with all of this?
Well, first and foremost, I want to stay in Raleigh as our bedrock store. A lot of people, once they make it big in sneakers, they close down the hometown store and they go to LA, Boston, Chicago, wherever, big cities. But I want to keep it local, and I want to keep the flagship Capital BST in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's first and foremost. In terms of expansion, we've definitely had opportunities, looked into it. We're definitely, up to expanding, franchising. It's just got to be the right opportunity with the right people. One thing I don't want to do is try to expand too fast and kind of put a stress on what we built here. You know what I mean? I don't want to spread us too thin. That's one thing I've noticed with a lot of stores. Once they get the New York and the LA locations, the hometown location, the amount of stuff they get dwindles down, and it ends up being like an outlet store basically for the big stores. So I want the heart and soul of what we do to stay in Raleigh always. It's my hometown, it's my community. So super proud to build something that was not here beforehand, and I want it to stay. But to tail end the second half of that question, man, I really don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I try to really be present and not plan too much in the future. It's always something that's on my mind, but as an entrepreneur, I think it's like really important to just go day by day and focus on winning each day, doing what you got to do each day, and getting better each day.
100%, bro. I love that. Does it ever kind of feel weird if you like go somewhere in public, or you go at the John Wall Invitational and someone comes up to you and like recognizes you as like, yo, you're the sneaker dude? Like,
Yeah, all the time,
have
man.
you had a weird experience? Not weird, but like, have you had a cool moment with that?
Yeah, I mean, just like having a kid ask you for a picture, that's so weird and like awesome. It's humbling, I've had that happen a couple times. But just getting noticed everywhere I go, it's like I can't, between basketball and going to ECU and having the store, I feel like I know so many people in Raleigh, and I literally can't go anywhere without seeing a familiar face and
So cool.
Having someone say what's up or say, hey, I used to buy shoes from you on Facebook Marketplace. But yeah, I mean, I've just been here so long, worked so many jobs, worked with so many people. Just the constant familiarity, real cool.
That's amazing, man. As we wrap this up, man, what you got on your feet today for the interview?
I got some Kobe 7s on. This was the Cheetah, this animal pack. So they had a bunch of different animals. This was probably my favorite one. I actually bought these and restored them. I got them off Goat for a cheap deal.
Really?
Painted them back up, got them good to go. So this is a perfect example of kind of how I got into shoes and
Love that.
getting something cheap, fixing it up, and getting it for the collection for a steal.
It's cool how most shoes that we own, and I'm sure you can relate. I know you probably have way more shoes than I do, but
Too many.
a lot of them have stories. A lot of them have like significance of some kind. Like these, bro. These are Jordan 3s, the crimson joints.
Beautiful.
And guess when I got these?
2016.
Bro, my mom got me these for my graduation, my high school graduation.
That's awesome, man. That's
And
so sick.
dude, no, these were 8th grade graduation. That was 2013.
I was gonna say that shoe came out 2012, 2013.
Bro, and I'm just like, bro, it's just beautiful. Like I've maybe worn these a handful of times.
They look awesome, man.
And but it's just cool to hear that or have that story, have that memory. Like I'll never forget when I'll never sell this shoe. I'll never give this away just because like the significance it has. But it's beautiful that there's like emotion tied to sneakers, and it's like people that don't understand really don't understand. But like it's so much more than the shoe. Like I could care less about the shoe. It's the moment, it's the experience, it's that memory. It's like there's so much beauty in that.
That's kind of like, I mean, that's how I met Eddie, and that's how I think we had such a great connection and worked together so well, is that I literally know him from like standing in line at sneaker releases and being like, hey, you're the same release I'm at every Saturday. So, I mean, those shoes, same, like the SBs I have from that era, I'm like I sat out in the line with Squirt and Eddie to get these in 2015, you know, and I'm still hanging out with these guys in 2024.
So
and I still have
man.
that same pair of shoes, you know, and that's a memory and a connection. And that's what a lot of people don't understand and don't see in the sneaker game. You know, a lot of people just see it as a material item, whereas we have a little bit more sentimental value to it. Probably over sentimentally value my sneakers at a point, but, you know, that's just what I love.
Dude, I love it, man. Like I said, just recapping, like I've literally started my entrepreneurial journey through sneakers. Like,
Yeah.
I would not be sitting here today doing this with this podcast with other businesses that we are involved in, like without sneakers.
Yeah.
And like everyone has different ways that they get into business or what they do, but like I'll forever have this emotional tie to shoes, not in a materialistic way per se, but just because of the way that it impacted my life.
No, for sure.
And there were so many relationships that were formed. Even this relationship, like I wouldn't have had this one without sneakers. And it's like, you're a homie for like as a friend outside of the business. And it's
Right.
like, bro, that's just, it's so beautiful to see how people's stories are like shared and how relationships are formed through, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's wild as an entrepreneur. You never know what that next step is going to lead to, man. But I feel like if you just put your best foot forward and try your best every day and do the right things will fall into place. Because like you said, without sneakers, I would have never owned a business. I would have never met half of my best friends. I would probably be in a cubicle doing something completely different right now. So
Yeah.
it's just, you know, like I said earlier, I didn't plan on this happening, but, you know, it all came together beautifully, and I feel really lucky for that.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Last question for you, bro. What is one piece of advice that you would give yourself, knowing what you know now? You've had a lot of life experiences. You've grinded through mud. Like you've put in the hours to get to this point. I know you're still grinding, you're still going, but like, what is that one piece of advice that you could look back on with all the experiences that you have?
Maybe don't get caught up too much in the grind, man, and take a little bit of time to like step back and enjoy yourself and like enjoy the progresses you're making, not only like long term but short term, like daily. Kind of looking back and reflecting and seeing what good things you did and like what growth you made every day. And just being thankful for that and realizing it, because I'm the type of person, I get so tied up in business and answering messages and trying to get by deadlines that sometimes I have to step back and be like, you know, I really have, you know, everything I ever wanted and more. Like I never thought this would grow to this amount. And,
Wow.
you know, I'm not always as gracious as I should be. You know, I don't always sit back to take the time to think how all this time and all these relationships tied in so beautifully and
Wow.
made this, you know.
So good, bro. That's powerful, man. I needed to hear that personally. So I know someone listening to this will gain from that. But
I hope so, man, because you've definitely inspired me, man. I'm very proud of what you've done. And, you know, I think you're a perfect example of someone who can step back and kind of be thankful like that. And I appreciate that in you. I'm trying to be more like you in that regard.
wow, dang, that's a big compliment. I appreciate that, man. I'm so stoked that we got to do this, man. What an honor. We are so blessed and grateful for you and
I'm honored too, man.
letting
Thank
us
you.
come into your store. And I'm really excited and hopeful that we'll be able to do some more stuff together in the future with giving back in the community. And you've been invested in this community for so long, man. It'd be so fun to partner with you on some fun stuff to make an impact.
Man. I would love to. If we could get our employees, our customers on board too, I think we can all, you know, really come together and make a difference.
Let's do it, man. That's the whole point of this show and what we do. And I know you have a similar heart posture, man. We want to help out one person at a time. And if we all attack it that way, I think we can do a lot of positive change.
Yeah, man. And it's infectious.
You're my guy.
Thank you,
Appreciate
brother.
bro. This has been fun.
It was awesome, man. I really appreciate you guys coming.